Okay, so welcome back. This is video 2 of the 12 column grid um, video tutorial. And what we're going to do now is, so this is where we left off. This is how our site looks. And you can download these files from video 1. And basically what we've done is we've created placeholders for the different rows and columns from this website, the Escape Committee. So we've created placeholders, but it doesn't really look like the Escape Committee website. So what I wanted to do is just kind of show how kind of simple it is to just add things like background images and colors to start to make a website look like a website with just a few lines of CSS code. So what we're going to do is we're just going to dive right in. What I've done is I've copied the image files from the Escape Committee website. I am not going to upload these files to my server. I'm not going to make them available. I just want to do this for illustrative purposes. And so that's what I've done though, is I've downloaded these files, these image files, and I've put them in a folder so that I can sort of illustrate how to implement these things. So what we're going to do now is we're going to first start with this hero image here. So we've got our banner up top here, or our header and our nav bar up top here. I want to include this background image here where this white space is. So let's go in our HTML and see where that is. So we've got our div class row, and we've got a div class called hero image. So what we're going to do here is we already had a style called hero image created. What we'll do now is we'll just create we'll just add a background image to this div. And so what the background image will do is it will just fill the background of the entire div with an image. And so what I'm going to do is go into my folder and see what my image is called. So I've named this image hero.jpg. So I'm going to go hero.jpg, and then we're just going to refresh. And so we've got the image in place, and we've got it's looking a little bit more like our website that we're trying to emulate here. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is we will add in the background image here, the background color here, so this one's not really an image, and then the background image here. So it goes image, color, image. And the color seems to match that of the header, so we can kind of keep that in mind as we change our CSS. So again, we're going image, color, image. So let's go back into our HTML, and we'll move down to the next row. So the next row is row 3. And what we've got here is classes of 6, 3, and 3. And the issue here again is, when we talked about this in the last video, we can't put a background image on our 6 class because that would put that same background image on all 6s. So what we need to do then is we need to add additional classes to specify what these particular boxes will be styled as. So naturally, I think a natural thing to do here is to not just call this div class 6, but also include a box called left, middle, and right? So that makes sense. So what we're doing is we're just adding a class called left so that we can specify for div class left inside of row 3, we're going to put a specific background image in there. For div class middle inside of row 3, we'll put a specific color. And for div class right inside of row 3, we'll put another specific background image. Okay, so all we've done here is we've added classes to each of these columns. Okay, so what we'll do now is let's take a look at, well, the first thing we'll do is we'll find the background color. So we had this original style here, row 3, column 6, row 3, column 3. We had a height and a background color. I'm going to remove those. So now we're just looking at a white background. And now what we need to do is we need to create a new style. So we'll go row 3 and left. So basically what we're saying here is any div that has a class of left inside of row 3, let's do something. Let's make a stylistic change. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add a background image, and we're going to go see what it's called. I believe it's called image1. So we'll just go image1.jpg. We'll save it and we'll refresh. So now we've got image1.jpg in our column that spans 6. This column here that spans 6. So the issue now is that we're getting the image is not looking correct, right? So this image is supposed to look like this, but what's happening is it's repeating because of the size of the image file. So one thing we can do is, if you Google along with me, background cover CSS. So there's this fairly new property in CSS called background size. It's for CSS3, and there's this link here that was published in 2009 from CSS Tricks that has a bit of code that's really helpful that I've used before. And basically what this does is it adds this background size cover to the image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste that little bit of code. So basically this is just a little bit of code for each of the different browsers. So for WebKit, Mozilla, etc., we are putting this CSS property of background size cover on there. And basically it'll treat it as what's called a cover image, and it will fill the div with the image. So it'll resize the image and fill it. Okay? So that's a cool little bit of code that kind of makes things a whole lot easier. So in the past we would have had to resize the whole image itself in Photoshop or some other photo editing software. Now we can just add this little bit of code of background size cover, and it treats it as a cover image. Now it still looks a little weird because it seems to be focused in further than this image, and so we can also do what we can also add this little bit of code, no repeat center center. So if we add that after our background image, this is basically going to center, take the center of the image and make that the focal point of the image. So if I refresh, oh, that didn't work. Where do I add that? No repeat center center. Bear with me for 1 second. I don't know why that didn't work. Maybe it doesn't work on, let me try it one more time. So for some reason it's not, maybe it doesn't work on the background image property. It just works on the background property. There we go. That's why. Okay. So it only works on the background property. So this little bit of code, no repeat center center. We can't use background image. We got to use background, just background by itself. It's a little nuance of CSS3. Sorry about that, but basically what we're saying is we're not going to repeat this image, and we're going to try to make the center of the image the focal point. And so you can kind of see now that this bit is now centered just the way that this bit is now centered in the Escape Committee site. Okay, so if I removed that no repeat center little bit of code. Again, it's a little off center. You can kind of see it lower in the screen. But if I add that back in, it kind of centers the image. Okay, so that's a little bit of advanced CSS. It's really not that difficult. And really, I got the idea from CSS Tricks, and I'll put a link to this site in the video description. Okay, so we're good there. Let's move on. So the next thing we need is we've already filled our left in row 3. Now we need to fill our middle in row 3. So to do that, we'll do row 3 and middle. And with this one, we don't need a image, but we do need to match the background color of our header. So I will just go background and then add the background color. And that should be it for that. Perfect. And then we need an image on the right one. So we will go back to our HTML and we'll see our code. So right row 3. So we got to do row 3 and right. And I'm just going to copy and paste this entire thing from our left image. And I'm going to change this to image 2. Okay. So again, we just want to keep this background size cover command, and we also want to keep our no repeat center command. Okay. So we'll refresh, and there we go. So now we've got our third row completed. So we got our hero image in, we've got our third row completed. Let's move on to the fourth row. Okay, so the fourth row looks like color, background color, image, image. So background color, image, image. What we need to do there then is we need to go back to row 4 and we need to add our left, middle, and right classes just like we did in row 3. So we'll go left, middle, and right. And basically what we'll do now is we will just say, instead of row 3 left, we'll go row 4 left. So now we're specifying row 4, this left placeholder right here. And let's scroll up here and remove this orange background color as well. So we'll remove that. So now we're working with a blank canvas. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste this entire, oh wait, no. Left is a background color, this background color. So let's just change this background color. Just copy and paste that, and we're in business. So we have these matching background colors. Now we're starting to see it come together. Then I'm going to open and create a new style for row 4 middle. So that's this right here. And we're going to just copy and paste all of this code again. But again, we're going to change our image file. So again, all we're doing is we're putting a background, we're putting the image in the background, and we're saying this is a cover image. Okay, so I'm going to refresh, and we can kind of see we're looking good. Don't worry, we'll take care of the spacing between these rows in a bit, but let's just get all the images in place. So we'll do row 4 right, and again we've got the same exact code, but we have a different image in row 4 right. So now we're really looking good. So we've got our hero in, we've got our row 3 done, we've got our row 4 done. Now we move on to row 5, which has 4 different columns. It looks like image, 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 background color. So we got to insert these 3 images, and then we got to add this background color. So let's go and move on to row 5. So row 5, we have to do the same thing we've done with the previous rows. But now we can't really do left, middle, and right because we've got 4, right? So there's no real middle. So what I'm going to do is I am going to just call the left one the left and the right one the right. And then I'll call these two ones in the middle 1, or just middle 1, that makes more sense, and middle 2. Okay, so just to kind of show you what I've done, left is this one, middle 1 is this one, middle 2 is this one, and right is this one. Okay, so to go back to the website, we need a background image, a background image, a background image, and then just a color. So let's do it. So we're just going to truck along just like we've been doing. Row 5 left is a background image, so I'm going to copy all of that code again and just change my image. And there's one image. And then I'm going to go row 5, middle 1. And I'm going to copy this again. Just change my image to image 6. There we go. And I'm going to go row 5, middle 2. Copy and paste, change that to 7. Great. And we're going to go row 5, right. And that is just our background color that we've been using, that red. So we're just going to go make that red. All right, so we're looking pretty good here. If we kind of look back and forth, we're looking pretty close. So on to row 6, which is image, image, image. So they're all images. Oops. 3 images in a row here. So let's go back to our HTML. Row 6. And we're going to go left, middle, and right again. So we're going to, again, add those classes to each of these columns. We're just going to keep on trucking. So row 6 left, and I'm going to just copy and paste this background image code. Row 8, row 6 middle, copy and paste, change that to 9, and row 6 right. Copy and paste, change that to 10. Okay, so nothing special there, just kind of doing what we've been doing. And I'm going to refresh, and now we're really looking good. Looking real close. What I'm going to do is figure out what this background color is in this footer area. And it looks like, bear with me. There we go. There's the background color. So we want to make this match that background color. And what I'm going to do is, just for consistency's sake, I'm going to add a row 7. Just the way that we've done it previously. We've added a row 6, row 5, etc. I'm going to add a row 7 so that I can just keep trucking. So row 7, and I'm going to go background, and I need to, I think I had a footer style. Yeah, I need to remove that. There we go. So now we've got this background color in, and we've got our footer the same color. So we are looking almost exactly like we're supposed to be looking. So really the only issue is we need some space between these rows. These rows right now have no margin at all. So if we look at our row styles, we have a padding of 0 and a margin of 0. So that's why everything is sort of butting up against each other. What we can do then is, for each of these rows, we don't want to change the margin on all rows, just in case, you know, on a subsequent page of this website we don't want those margins in there. So what we can do then is we created these sub areas, right? So starting with row 3, 4, 5, 6, we have classes for each of those. So what we can do is we can do row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6, and row 7. So now we're just basically saying for any class that is row 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, we'll do a margin top 30 pixels. That's just a guess. And it added it to row 3, but none of the others. Let's see why. I wonder if we need to do padding top 30 pixels. Let's try that. Okay. So what this did, perfect. Okay, so what this did is it added 30 pixels of padding to the top of each class that's labeled row 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Okay, so that's pretty much perfect. I think that looks pretty great. And then row 7 doesn't seem to be doing anything. Let's see. I wonder if this footer style is messing it up. I'm going to move this style down to row 7. See if that worked. Nope. All right, well, we'll figure that out later. But if you look, now we're looking really close to the escape committee site. So if we look here and we scroll back here, it's pretty close. It's a little bit smaller. There's a couple little changes. So for example, this is there's some extra room on the right and the left on the escape committee site, but and it looks like the gutters between each column are a little bit smaller than my site. But the point wasn't to exactly recreate it pixel for pixel, but to say, look, we've got this 12-column grid, and all we have to do is divide this thing into rows and columns. And as long as we have those rows and columns in place, it's really not that hard to make it, to put kind of the finishing touches on a site to really start to make it look like a cohesive, well-designed, modern website. Okay, so that's all I've got for us today. I could go ahead and put the text in and really sort of make this look exactly like the site, but again, that's not the point. The point was to get these things in place. So to sort of recap, all we really did is we added a couple classes to our grid so that we could specify specific elements in our grid, right? So we added left, middle, and right, so we could say left column in row 3 needs to have this picture, middle column needs to be this color, and right column in row 3 needs to have this picture. And so that's what the HTML allows us to do is by adding classes to particular divs, we can then say, okay, the left column in row 4 needs to be something specific that's different than the left column in row 3, and so on and so forth. Okay? So that's pretty much it. With those two videos, we went from a site that looked like that looked very different, and now it sort of looks like the Escape Committee website, and it just took maybe a little less than an hour. So comment below if you've got questions, and subscribe if you're interested. But I hope you found this helpful and educational. Thank you.